Hey everybody, tomorrow or technically today since it's hella late is my mother's birthday. I want to do something vibing, something chill. So I'm gonna read a book. Sure, book. I will probably do more videos until I finish this book, and if I need to continue the series because relatives liked it or because other people want to listen to my audiobooks, I will. Here we go. We're gonna be reading the series of The Darkest by Sina Showalter. Gina Showalter, it's up there. The book itself is Darkest Night. We'll be reading chapter one through as many as I can before I feel tired. Every night, death came slowly, painfully, and every morning, Maddox awoke in bed, knowing he would have to die again. Later, that was his greatest curse and his eternal punishment. He ran his tongue over his teeth, wishing it were a blade over his enemy's throat instead. Most of the day he had already passed. Most of the day had already passed, I sorry. He had heard the time sweep away, a poisonous tick-tock in his mind, every beat of the clock a mocking reminder of mortality and pain. In little more than an hour, the first sting would pierce his stomach, and nothing he did, nothing he said would change that. Death would come for him. Damned gods, he muttered, increasing the speed of his bench presses. Bastards, every one of them, a familiar male voice said from behind him. Maddox's motions didn't slow at Torrin's unwelcome intrusion. Up, down. For 2 hours he had worked out his frustration and anger on a punching bag. The treadmill and now the weights. Sweat ran from his bare chest and arms, riding the ropes of his muscle in clear rivulets. He should be as exhausted mentally as he was physically, but his emotions were only growing darker and more powerful. "You should not be here," he said. Or inside. "Look, I didn't mean to interrupt, but something happened. Take care of it. I can't. Whatever it is, try. I'm in no shape to help." The last few weeks, very little was needed to send him into a killing haze where no one around him was safe, even his friends. Especially his friends. He don't want to. Never meant to. But was sometimes helpless against urges to strike and to maim. Maddox. "I'm at the edge, Thorin," he croaked. "I would do more harm than good." Maddox knew his limitations. He had known them for thousands of years, ever since that doomed day the gods had chosen a woman to perform a task that should have been his. Pandora had been strong, yes, the strongest female soldier of their time, but he had been stronger, more capable, yet he had been deemed too weak to guard Demonarch, a sacred box housing demons, so vile, so destructive they could not even be trusted in hell. As if Maddox would have allowed it to be destroyed, frustration had bloomed inside of him, as an infinite inside of all effort and inside all of them. Every warrior now living here, they had fought diligently for the king of the gods, killed expertly, and protected thoroughly. They should have been chosen as guards. They hadn't. That they hadn't was an embarrassment not to be tolerated. They'd only thought to teach the gods a lesson. The night they'd stolen Demarek from Pandora and released the horde of demons inside upon the unsuspecting world. How foolish they had been. Their plan to prove their power had failed, for the box had gone missing in the fray, leaving the warriors unable to recapture a single evil spirit. Destruction and havoc had soon reigned, plunging the world into darkness until the king of the gods finally intervened, cursing each warrior of the house, a demon inside of him, inside himself. A fitting punishment. The warriors had unleashed the evil uh, to avenge their stinging pride. Now they would contain it. And so the lords of the underworld were born. Addicts had been given violence. The demon who was now as much a part of him as his lungs or his heart. Now Now men could no longer live without demon, and demon could no longer function without man. They were woven together, two halves of a whole. From the very first, The creature inside him had beckoned him to do malicious things, he hated things, and he had been compelled to obey, even when he had to, ugh, even when it led to slay a woman. To slay Pandora, his fingers clenched the bar so tightly his knuckles nearly snapped out of place. Over the years, he had learned to control some of the demon's more vile compulsions, but it was a constant struggle, and he knew he could shatter at any moment. What he would have given for a single day of calm, no overpowering desire to hurt others, no battles within himself, no worries, no death, just peace. It's not safe for you here, he told his friend, who still stood in the doorway. You need to leave. He set the silver bar atop his merchant setup. Only Lucian and Reyes are allowed to be close to me during my demise. My only and only because they played a part in it, unwilling though they were. They were helpless against their demons as Maddox was his. About an hour until that happened, so Torin threw a rag at him. I'll take my chances. Maddox reached behind his back, caught the white cloth, and turned it. He wiped his face. Water. An ice cold bottle was soaring through the air before the second syllable left his mouth. Caught it deftly, moisture splashing his chest. He drained the icy contents and studied his friends. As usual, Torin wore all black and gloves covered his hands. Pale hair, pale hair fell in waves to his shoulder, framing a face mortal females considered a sensational feast. They didn't know that man was actually a devil in angel's skin. They should have, though. He practically glowed with invigorance. Invigorance. And there was an unholy gleam in his eyes that proclaimed that he will laugh in your face while cutting out your heart, or laugh in your face while cut out his heart. To survive, he had to find humor where he could. They all did. Like every resident of the pissed fortress, Thornton was damned. He might not die every night like Maddox, but he could never touch a living thing skin to skin without infecting it with sickness. Thornton was possessed by the spirit of disease. He hadn't known a woman's touch in over 400 years. He had learned his lesson well when he had given in to lust and caressed a would-be lover's face, bringing about a plague that disseminated village after village. Human after human. 5 minutes of your time, Torrance said. His determination clear, that's all I'm asking. Thank you, Will. Be punished for insulting the gods today. Think we'll be punished for insulting the gods today? Maddox replied, ignoring the request. He didn't allow himself to be asked for a favor. He didn't have to feel guilty for turning it down. His friend uttered another of those sighs, where every breath is supposed to be a punishment. True Maddox's lips curled into a slow, razored smile as he peered ceilingward. Bastards, punish me further, I dare you. Maybe then finally he would fade into nothingness. He doubted the gods would concern themselves, though. After bestowing the death curse upon him, they had ignored him, pretending not to hear his pleas for forgiveness and absolution, pretending not to hear his promises and desperate bargaining. What more could they do to him, anyway? Nothing could be worse than dying over and over again, or being stripped of anything good and right, or hosting the spirit of violence inside his mind and body. Jackknifing to his feet. Uh, yeah, that's a weird one. Jackknifing to his feet, Maddox tossed the new wet rag and empty water bottle into the nearest hamper. He strode far end of the room and braced his hands above his head, leaning into the say a clear roof of stained glass windows and staring into the night. Though the only clear portion, he saw paradise, he saw hell, he saw freedom, prison, and everything and nothing. He saw home. Situated atop in a towering hill, as the fortress was, he had a direct view of the city. Lights glowed brightly pink blues, glistening off the Denver River and forming the snow-capped trees that dominated the area. Wind bustled, snowflakes dancing and twirling through the air. Here, he and the others had a mudderone of privacy from the rest of the world. Here they were allowed to come and go without having to face a barrage of questions. Why don't you age? Why don't your scream echo through the forest every night? Why do your screams echo? Why do you sometimes look like a monster? Here the locals maintained their distance, odd, respectful angels he had even heard whisper during a rare encounter with a mortal. They only knew Maddox snails elaginated slightly, digging into the stone. See, they're naming the location. I'm just gonna call it a bed. but but it was a place of majestic beauty and old world charm and modern pleasure. But he had always felt removed from it, from the castle district that lined one street to the nightclubs that lined the next, from the fruits, vegetables hawked in one alley, living flesh, um, flesh hawked in the other. Maybe that sense of disconnection would vanish if he ever explored the city, but unlike others who roamed at will, he was trapped inside the fortress surrounding the land as surely as violence had been trapped inside Pandora's box thousands of years ago. His nose lengthened further, almost claws now. Thinking of the box always blackened his mood. Punch a wall, violence beckoned. Destroy something, hurt, kill. He would have liked to obliterate the gods one by one, decapitate them, perhaps, rip out their blackened, decayed hearts, definitely. The demon purred in approval. Of course it's purring now. Maddox thought with disgust. Anything bloodthirsty, no matter the victims, met the creature's support. Scowling, he leveled another heated glance at the heavens. He and the demon had been paired long ago, but he remembered the day clearly. The screams of innocent in his ears, demons bleeding all around him, hurting, dying, spirits having devoured their flesh and wrapped in its frenzy. Only when violence had been shoved inside his body did he lose touch with reality. There had been no sound, no sight, just all-consuming darkness. And he regained his senses until Pandora's blood splattered his chest, her last breath echoing in his ears. She had not been his first kill, or his last, but she had been the first and only woman to meet his sword. The horror of seeing that once vibrant female form broken, knowing that he was responsible for it. To this day, he not he had not uh, as he had not gotten rid of the guilt and the regret, the shame and the sorrow. He had sworn to do whatever was necessary to control the spirit from then on, but it had been too late. Enraged all the more, Zeus had bestowed a second curse upon him. Every night at midnight he would die exactly as Pandora had died, a blade through the stomach, 6 hellish times. The only difference was her torment had ended within minutes. His torment would last for eternity. He popped his jaw, trying to relax against the new onslaught of aggression. It wasn't as if he was there one to suffer, he reminded himself. The other warriors had their own demons, literally and figuratively. Torin, of course, who was keeper of disease, Lucian, who was keeper of death, Reyes of pain, Aaron of wraith, Paris of promiscuity. That's a word. Why couldn't he have been given to been given that last one? He would have been able to journey town anytime he wished, take any woman he desired, savoring every sound, every touch, as it was. He could never venture far, nor could he trust himself around females for long periods of time. If a demon overtook him, or he could not return home before midnight, if someone found his dead bloody body and buried him, or worse, burned him, how he wished such a thing would end his miserable existence. He would have left long ago and allowed himself to be roasted in a pit, or perhaps he would have jumped from the fortress' highest window and smashed his brains from his skull. But no, no matter what he did, he would merely awaken once again. Make some water, guys, sorry. Scarred as well as sore, broken as well as sliced. You've been staring at that window for a while, Torrance said. Aren't you even curious as to what's happened? Adix blinked and was dragged from his thoughts. You're still here? His friend arched a black brow, the color of a startlingly contrast to his silver white hair. I believe the answer to my question is no. Are you calm now, at least? Was he ever truly calm? As calm as a creature like me can be. Stop whining, there's something I need to show you. And don't try to deny me this time, we can talk about my reason for disturbing you along the way. Then another ward, Torian spun on his booted heel and strode from the room. Alex remained in place for several seconds, watching his friend disappear around the corner. Stop whining, Torian had said. Yes, that's exactly what he would have been doing. Curiosity and weary amusement pushed past his lethal mood, and Maddox stepped from the gym into the hallway. A cold draft of air swirled around him, a thick with moisture and crisp scents of winter. He spied Torin a few feet away and stalked forward quickly, closing in. What's this about? Finally interested? was the only response. If this is one of your tricks, like the time Torin had ordered hundreds of blow-up dolls and placed them throughout the fortress, all because Paris had foolishly complained about the lack of female companionship in town. Plastic ladies had stared out from every corner, and their wide eyes let me suck you mouth, taunting everyone who passed them. Things like that happened when Torin was bored. I wouldn't waste my time trying to trick you, Torin said without turning to face him. You, my friend, have no sense of humor. True. As Maddox kept pace, stone walls stretched at his sides. Damned and Torin had dubbed the place. Had been built hundreds of years ago, though they had modernized it as best as they could. The age showed in crumbling rock and the scuffed floors. Where is everyone? Maddox asked, only when realizing he hadn't spotted any other of theirs. Think Paris would be shopping for food since our cabinets are nearly empty, and it's his only duty. But no, he's out searching for a new woman. Lucky bastard, possessed as he was by Mascotry, Paris cannot bed the same woman twice, so he seduced a new one or two or three every day. Only downside, if he couldn't find a woman, he was reduced to doing something like Maddox. Didn't even want to contemplate things that left. The normally good-tempered man hunched over a, tor- a toilet, heaving the contents of his stomach. Though Maddox's envy about it at such moments is always returned when Paris spoke of one of his lovers, the soft brush of the thigh, the meeting of the hot skin, the the groans of ecstasy. Aaron, prepare yourself, Thorn, because this is the main reason I hunted you down. Did something happen? Alex demanded. The darkness stuttered over his thoughts. Angry overtook him. Destroy, obliterate, violence screeched, clawing at the corners of his mind. Is he hurt? Mortal Aaron might be, but he could still be harmed, even killed, if they had all discovered the worst possible way. Nothing like that, Torin assured him. Slowly he relaxed, gradually violence reduced. What then? Cleaning a mess and throwing a fit, every warrior had specific responsibilities. It was their way of maintaining some semblance of order amid the chaos of their own souls. Aaron's task was maid service, something he complained about on a daily basis. Maddox took care of home repairs, Torm paid with stocks and bonds whenever those were, keeping them well-eyed, mon-eyed. Lucian did all the paperwork, and Reyes applied um with weapons. The god summoned him. Maddox stumbled. Shock momentarily blinded him. What? Surely he had misheard. The god summoned him, Torin repeated patiently. But the Greeks hadn't spoken of any of them since the day of Pandora's death. What do they want? And why am I just now hearing about this? No one knows. We were watching a movie when suddenly he straightened in his seat, dead, expression dead, as if there were no one home. Then a few seconds later, he tells us he's been summoned. None of us had the time to react. One minute everyone was with us, the next he was gone. And two, Torn added with barely a pause, I tried to tell you. You just didn't care. Remember? Muscle ticked below his eye. You should have told me anyway. Why you had barbells within your reach? Please, I'm diseased, not stupid. This was this was this bleh. This was Maddox did not want to contemplate this was what this was, but he could not stop the thoughts from forming. Sometimes Aaron Keeper Wraith lost total control of his spirit and embarked on a vengeance rampage, punishing mortals for their perceived sins. Was he now given a second curse for his actions, as Maddox had been all those centuries ago? Oh, here he goes. If he does not return the same shape he left, I will find a way to storm the heavens and slaughter every godly being I encounter. Your eyes are glowing bright red, Torin said. Look, we're all confused, but everyone will return soon and tell us what's going on. Fair enough, he forced himself to relax again. Was anyone else summoned? No, Lucian is out collecting souls, raises God knows where, probably cutting himself. He should have known. Even though Maddox suffered unbearably each night, he pitied Reyes, who could not live a single hour without self-inflicting torture. What else did you have to tell me? Maddox brushed his fingertips over the two towering columns that flanked the staircase before beginning the climb. I think it will be better if I show you. Would it be worse than the announcement about Aaron? Maddox wondered. Striding past the entertainment room, their sanctuary, the chamber they've spared no expense creating was filled with plush furniture and all the comforts of the warrior could desire. There was a refrigerator crammed with special wines, beers, a pool table, basketball hoop, a large plasma screen, with even now new flashing images of three naked women in the middle of an act of, of love and ecstasy, guys. Let's just say that. I see Paris was here, he said. Thorin did not reply, but he did quicken his steps, never once glancing toward the screen. Never mind, Maddox muttered, directing Thorin's attention of anything and was unnecessary cruel. The celibate man had to crave sex, touch with every fiber of his being, but he would never have the option of indulging. Even Maddox enjoyed a woman upon occasion. Lovers were usually Paris leftovers, those females foolish enough to try to follow Paris home, hoping to share his bed again, not knowing how impossible such a thing was. They were always drunk with sexual arousal, a consequence of welcoming promiscuity, so they rarely cared who finally slide between their legs. Most of the times, they were all too happy to accept Maddox as a substitute, even though it was an impersonal joining as emotionally hollow as it was physically satisfying. Huh. So basically, one night stands. It had been that way, though. To protect their secrets, the warriors did not allow humans inside the fortress, forcing Maddox to take the women outside the surrounding forest. He preferred them on their hands and knees, forcing away from him. Hmm. A swift coupling that would not rouse violence in any way or compel him to do things that would haunt him forever. Okay. See, that just sounds very R word, but see, I'm just a person who can I know. Afterward, Maddox would send the females home with a warning never to return or die. It was that simple. To allow a mere permanent arrangement would be foolish. He might come to care for them. It would definitely hurt them, which would only heap even more guilt and shame upon him. Wow, why am I so tired? We're not even done with chapter 1. And then pages left. Once, though, he would have liked to linger over a woman as Paris was able to do. He would have liked to kiss and lick her entire body and would have liked to drown in her, completely losing himself without fearing his control snap and cause to wound her. I'm gonna have to make this 18 plus, aren't I? Definitely not for kids. Finally reaching Torrent's quarters, he blocked those thoughts from his mind. Time spent wishing time was wasted. As hell knew, he glanced at his surroundings. He had been in his room before, but he had not remembered the wall-to-wall computer system or the numerous monitor, phones, and various other equipment lined throughout. Unlike Tori and Maddox, hated most technology, for he had never quite gotten used to how quickly things seemed to change, and just how much further each new advancement seemed to pull him from the carefree warrior he had once been. Though he would be lying if he claimed not to enjoy the convenience such gadgets provided. Survey complete, he faced his friend taking over the world. Nope, just watching it. It's the best way to protect us, and the best way to make a little coin. Thorin plopped into the cushioned swirl chair in front of the largest screen and began typing on the keyboard. One of the blink monitors lit up in the black screen, becoming all intertwined grays and whites. Alright, here's what I wanted you to see. Careful not to touch his friend, Maddox stepped forward. The indistinct blur gradually became thick, see-through lines. Trees, he realized. Nice, but not something he was dire in need of viewing. Patience. Hurry, he countered. Torrin flicked him a wary glance. Since you asked so nicely, I have heat sensors and cameras hidden throughout our land, so that I always know when someone trespasses. A few more seconds of tapping on the screen, view shifted to the right. Then there was a swift flash of red. There was one moment to gone, the next. Go back, Maddox said, tensing. He wasn't a surveillance expert. No, his skills lay in the actual killing. But even he knew what the red slash represented: body heat. Tap, tap, tap. The red slash once again consumed the screen. Human, he asked? The silhouette was small, almost dainty. Definitely. Male or female? Torrin shrugged. Female, most likely. Too big to be a child. Too small to be a grown man. Hardly anybody who ventured up to the bleak hill at this time of night, even during the day, whether it was too spooky or too gloomy, or the sign of locals represent medics didn't know. Ooh. But he could count on that. On one hand, a number of delivery men, children wanting to explore, women prowling for sex, who would brave the journey on in the last year. And a pair's lovers, possibly, or he prompts, on his first hesitating, a hunter. Torrin said grimly. Bait, more specifically. Maddox pressed his lips together in a harsh line. Now I know why you're teasing me. Think about it. Delivery men always come with boxes. Paris girls always race straight toward the front door. This one looks this one looks empty-handed, and she's gone in circles, stopping every few minutes and doing something against the tree. Planting dynamite in an attempt to injure us, maybe? Cameras to watch us? Sheep's empty, Hampton. Dynamite and cameras are small enough to conceal. Message the back of his neck. Hunters haven't stalked or tormented us since Greece. Maybe their children and their children's children have been searching for us all this time. Maybe they finally found us. Dread suddenly curled on Maddox's storm stomach. First Aaron's shocking summon, and now uninvited visitor. Mere coincidence, the mind flashed back to those dark days in Greece, the days of war and savagery, screams and death, days in the warriors had been more demon than man, days hunger for destruction had dedicated their every action, and human bodies had littered the streets. Hunters had soon risen from the tortured masses, league of mortal men intent upon destroying those who had unleashed such evils. Blood feud had erupted, the battles he had found himself fighting with swords. I need some more water, I apologize. Very unprofessional. Clanking in the fires raging, flesh burned, and peace was something of lore and legend. Cunning he had been the hunter's greatest weapon, however. They had trained female baits to seduce and distract while they swooped for the kill. That's how they managed to murder Baden, keeper of distrust. They had not managed to kill the demon itself, however, and had sprung from the decapitated body, crazed, demented, warped from the loss of its host. The demon recited now? Maddox didn't know. The gods surely hate us, Torrin said. What better way to hurt us than to send hunters just when we've finally carved out a somewhat peaceful life for ourselves? His dread intensified. They would not wish the demons, crazed as they would surely be without us, loose upon the world, would they? Who knows why they do any of the things that they do? A statement with no hint of question. None of them really understood the gods. Gaze flicked at the wall. Clock and he tensed. Call Paris. Did, did he's not answering his cell phone? Call? You really think I would have disturbed you at close to midnight if there was anyone else? Torrin twisted his seat, peering up at him, forbidding determination. You're it. Maddox shook his head. Very soon. I'm going to die. I cannot be outside these walls. Very soon I'm going to die. I cannot be outside these walls. Neither can I. Something murky and dangerous streamed in the torn eye. Something bitter turning the green poisonous emerald. You at least won't obliterate the entire human race by leaving, Torin. You're not going to win this argument, Maddox, so stop wasting time. He tangled a hand through his chin-length hair, frustration mounting. We should leave it out there to die, Violence proclaimed. It, the human. What if it is a hunter? Torrance said, as if hearing his thoughts. If it is bait, we can't allow it to live. It must be destroyed. And if it's innocent, my death curse strikes. Vix countered, tamping down the demon as he could. Guilt flashed over Torrin's expression, as though every life he was responsible for taking clamored inside his conscience, begging him to rescue those he could. That is a chance we have to take. We are not the monsters the demons would have us be. Maddox ground his teeth together. He was not a cruel man. He was not a beast. Not heartless. He hated the waves of immortality that constantly threatened to pull him under. Heated. What he did. He hated what he did, what he was, and what would he become if he ever stopped fighting these black cravings and evil musings. Where's the human now? He asked. He would venture into the night, even if it cost him terribly. At Tonbide border. A 15-minute run. He had just enough time to weapon up, find the human, usher it to shelter if it was innocent, or kill it if circumstances demanded. Return to the fortress if anything slowed him down. He could die out in the open. Anyone else foolish enough to venture into the hills would be placed in danger, because when the first pain hit, he would be reduced to violence, and those black cravings would consume him. He would be no other purpose but destruction. If I don't return by midnight, have one of the others search for my body, as well as Lucian and Reyes. Both death and pain come to him each night at midnight, no matter where Maddox was. Pain rendered the blows, and death escorted his soul to hell, where it would remain tortured by fire, demons almost as loathsome as violence until morning. Unfortunately, Maddox cannot guarantee his friend's safety out in the open. He might hurt them before they complete their task, and if he hurt them, the anguish he would feel would be second only to agony of death curse that visited him every night. Promise me, he said. Eyes bleed torn, nodded. Be careful, my friend. Stalked out of his room, his movements rushed before he made it halfway down the hallway. However, Torian called Maddox. You might want to look at this. Backtracking experienced another slap of dread. What now? Could he be anything worse? When he stood out of the monitors once more, he arched a brow, Torin a silent command to hurry. Torin monitored the screen with a tilt of his chin. Looks like there are four of them, all male, or Amazons. They weren't there earlier. Damn this, Maddox. Damn this, Maddox studied the four new slashes of red, each one bigger than the last. They were closing in on the little one. Yes, things could be indeed worse. I'll take care of them, all of them. Once more he leapt into motion, his pace more clipped. He reached his bedroom and headed straight to the closet, bypassing the bed. The only piece of furniture in his room he had destroyed his dresser, mirror, and chairs in one fit of violence or another. At one time he had been foolish enough to fill the space with tranquil indoor waterfalls, plants, crosses, anything to promote peace, soothe the raw nerves. None of it had worked, and all of it had been smashed beyond repair in a matter of minutes, as the demon overtook him. Since then, he opted for what Paris called minimalist look. The only reason he still had a bed was because it was made out of metal and Reese needed something to chain him to at midnight drew near. They kept an abundant supply of mattresses, sheets, chains, and metal headboards in one of the bedrooms next door, just in case. Very quickly he jerked a black t-shirt over his head, pulled a pair of boots, and stubbed his waist and wrist and ankles. No guns. He and Violence were in agreement about one thing. Enemies needed to die up close and personal. If any of the humans in the force proved to be hunters or bait, nothing could save them now. That was chapter 1. Obviously, it took a lot longer than I expected because sleepy boy. Um, Next time I will not record these when it's hella late because I feel like that impaired me, made my speech worse. But that's it for today. Peace.